Hey guys, it's been a little bit since I did a video, but I just wanted to talk about biofield tuning and what a session looks like. So, biofield tuning is where I use tuning forks to help heal the human biofield, or in other words, the human aura or the human energy field, whatever you want to call that. So, I had a really awesome session over the weekend. Um, a session entails where, I figure out what points on your body, which chakras need the most attention. So I do use the pendulum to determine which areas on your body are out of balance. And for my client on the weekend, the first chakra that was presenting issues were actually the chakras in her knees. For those of you that don't know, there are energy points in our knees as well as our hands and our feet for that matter. Anyways, so I work first with the knees because we always want to start from the bottom and move up through the body. So the next thing that I would do after determining which area needs to be worked on is I determine the edge of the person's biofield or the edge of the aura. So for most people, typically the aura extends about 6 feet out on all sides of the body. So with the forks, I go and stand about 6 feet away and I determine the edge of the biofield with the tuning forks. How I know this, the tuning forks present certain sounds and vibrations when they hit certain energy fields or disruptions in someone's energy. So I was able to determine the edge of the field, and then I slowly worked inwards close until I eventually got to the physical body of my client. Anyways, so we actually are mapped out in our energy field. So our whole timeline of how we live is mapped out in our biofield. What I have learned through biofield tuning and what the creator of that course also learned is that your birth resides on the outer edge of that field. So for instance, my client this past weekend, her birth was on the very edge of her field, so about 6 feet away from her physical body. As I moved in with the forks, her age is like 8, 20, 25, all of those age points were closer to the physical body, if that makes sense. Anyways, as I was moving through the field, I was encountering disruptions in the energy field. So for instance, right at her birth, I could feel there was a lot of commotion with the frequency of the forks. And so I asked if she was aware if she had a traumatic birth or if her mother had issues while she was giving birth to her. That was left unknown for her. So she is going to get back to me on whether she had a traumatic birth. So moving along, as I got to about the age of 4, 5, I encountered more energy disruption with the forks. I asked her, okay, so what was going on in the age of 4 or 5? She mentioned that she had a very big move at that young of an age, and it was traumatic for her because she didn't want to move to where she is living currently. So moving along, I work with the fork until the fork presents a clear tone, and that's how I know that that energy was cleared out. So any negativity stored in the person's field, the forks detect that, and I will stay with the forks and work with that energy until it is clear. So moving along her biofield timeline, we get to the age of about 10, and all I could see was water. It does help to have kind of a natural intuition for these types of things because, images are shown to me as I'm moving through someone's energy field. Anyway, so all I could see was water. It was a very intense image. And so I said, what's going on with you and water? Did anything negative happen around water for you? And she was like, well, no, we grew up with a big watering hole in our backyard and we used to play in the watering hole a lot when we were younger. And I was like, okay, but did something happen in the watering hole? She didn't have any recollection of anything negative happening in that watering hole. And then she said, well, I actually am a water sign. So her astrological sign is a water sign. So I found that to be interesting. I was like, well, okay, well, what else? Is there something else that you can think of that is negative with you in water? And she's like, actually, she has She said that she has an intense fear of water, but she doesn't understand why she has this fear. I was like, okay, so that's what I'm picking up on. That's why the forks were picking up on this energy, because that is an intense fear for her. So the forks would pick up on that negative vibration. And so I stood with the forks in that moment in her timeline and worked in that energy until that energy was clear. Anyways, moving along, I said, I hit another area of resistance about the age of 18 to 20. I was like, what happened to you during the age of 18 to 20? Well, she actually left church. She left religion because it didn't resonate with her. So that was a very trying time for her, as she was very lost during that age. And obviously leaving the church, if you grew up in a religious family, that's a really big deal. And so this was a very traumatic time for her, and the forks picked up on that trauma. So, I stayed with that energy, work with the tuning forks, and again, I'll stay there until the tones ring clear, and I'll stay there until it feels like I can move forward. Just so you guys are aware, the forks present a lot of resistance as I'm moving through a field when I hit a traumatic memory. So until I feel like I can move the fork forward, then I'll stay in that point in the timeline, and I won't move along until the fork becomes less sticky, if that makes sense. Moving along, she is currently 32 right now. Once I hit the age of 30, I said, okay, there's a ton of heat. There's a ton of resistance at the age of 30. What is going on here for you? And so she let me know that at the age of 30, she left the father of her children. So obviously that was extremely traumatic for her, and she is still dealing with the trauma from that separation as we speak. But as always, I stayed there, and this took me a long time to work through this negative energy. So I stayed there until it was clear, and then I continued the rest of the session after that. So that's the gist of kind of how a biofield tuning session works. It works really, really well to dispel of trauma and negative emotions, anything like that. The forks are amazing. They do pick up on these subtle vibrations, and they will present themselves to me with different tones, with change in temperature. And it's found to be extremely beneficial from who I've worked on, and including myself. Guys, we are made of frequency, and these tuning forks are tuned to different frequencies, and our bodies love those healing frequencies, and that's why this method of healing is super, super beneficial. If you'd like to have a session, please send me a message, leave me a comment. Also visit my website, www.sessionswithsandra.ca, to reach me that way. And if you have any questions at all, just reach out. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.